In round one of this debate, I'm going to argue that the Democratic Party is best poised to lead America into the future, and I'm going to make this argument based on three sub-arguments. One is an economics argument, two is a healthcare argument, and three is a national security argument. So, economics, which encompasses everything else, so I'll start with that. I'm going to focus on the idea of deficit spending, which is a policy that the Democratic Party and not the Republican Party advocates for. And this is an idea that we are going to keep spending levels at least at status quo and probably raise them and raise taxes to ensure that we don't delve deeper into debt and garner a greater deficit than we already have, but we're still spending. And the Republican Party is strictly against this policy of deficit spending because they use the example that American citizens are need to be fiscally responsible, and American citizens don't spend money when they don't have it, so the government shouldn't spend money when it doesn't have it. But the basic premise of this argument is false, right? And the government should spend money even if it doesn't have it during times of economic stagnancy, for the same reason that Americans spend money when they don't have it. It's because they know they're going to get a return on investments greater than the amount they borrowed in order to make those investments. Because they know that in the future they're going to have built up a revenue base significant enough that they can pay off those debts that they incurred, to fill in the holes in the budget that created that deficit, and to start to build up a surplus. And they'll also be able to pay back the loans that they made, which is another argument that the Republican Party makes, right? That we owe all this money to China and to other countries, and they're going to come knocking on the door looking to collect our debt. But America is a pretty safe bet. Even after that economic recession, investing in America is not very risky at all. And most of those countries, like Europe, China, Japan, depend on the American market, American technologies that we export, and them sending imports to us and us buying up their goods. So they're not going to come looking to throw America into economic chaos again, because that will mess up their economies. So that is the economics argument. Let me get into the healthcare argument, which we've seen so far under the Obama administration, that the Affordable Health Care Act and the Children's Health Insurance Reauthorization Act have both been passed. And the Republican Party argues that this is going too far for the government, right? They're stepping into the living room of individual American citizens. They're taking away freedoms and liberties by mandating health insurance, and that it's kind of a step too far. But I believe that the Democratic policy is correct because it actually enhances the freedoms and liberties of American citizens. Healthcare costs and healthcare security costs make up 1/6 of the American GDP, which is an enormous amount. And most of that burden falls on the backs of American citizens, individually trying to pay for it themselves out of their own wallet or through a healthcare security company. And the American government should be able to come in and alleviate some of that burden, right? They should be able to regulate what those healthcare security corporations can do and kind of help provide Americans with help them with their health care costs so they can spend their money elsewhere, so they can spend their time elsewhere, so they don't have to feel threatened and worry about, well, if I leave this job, they have the freedom to leave their job and they're still going to have health insurance. Or I have a child who is born with a disability that no one's going to cover. I have to spend all my money and all my time trying to pay this off, right? So it gives American citizens increased freedom and liberty to do what they want. And third, I'm going to make a national security argument that under this Democratic administration, there has been increased in networking and intelligence sharing with the international community, with the United States. And this enhances our reputation around the world, and it also strengthens our allies, which is good for our national security, because when we are every man against himself, it's harder to see when we have a common threat. And we very well might be perceived as the threat, whereas if we work closer with our allies, this is not the case. And hopefully our enemies will feel less immediately threatened by us and will not suffer so many attacks. And meanwhile, we also, in addition, we have engaged in several things like the START treaty with Russia to reduce nuclear weapons. That enhances our national security. It shows our trust with Russia. And we've also eliminated unauthorized torture, which was illegal under international law, one of the few international agreements that the United States of America has ratified, which also adds to our enhanced reputation. So these are the main arguments why I'm saying the Democratic Party is best poised to lead America into the future.